Well, first, I can't tell you how relieved I am that they didn't have to play Wipeout as my walk-up music, because I've been fronting that for the last half hour or so. Thank you, Steve. I want to say I feel both privileged and honored to be your 2018 campaign chair. As I've been working on what I was going to say today, I really reflected back on what Dr. Todd Salini said at last year's meeting, and how he told us the wonderful story of how his mother started a United Way chapter in the basement of their New York home back in 1972. Todd was literally born into a United Way lifestyle. The journey that led me here actually started just a couple years after Linda Salini started that United Way chapter. For me, it started in the summer of 1974 when I was just 12 years old. My family relocated from my hometown of Indianapolis, Indiana, and we moved to Winnipeg, Manitoba in Canada. Since it was summertime, my mom thought it'd be a good idea for me to enroll in a Saturday morning program at the Winnipeg Young Men's Hebrew Association. I'd spend Saturday mornings doing various activities and meeting new friends and kind of acclimating to my new home. And now, a couple months into the program, they decided to do some special activities and set 2 Saturdays aside. I had to sign up for the activity I wanted, and when I went around to sign up, there were really only 2 things left, at least that I saw. One was material arts, and I figured that was about quilting and sewing, maybe a little knitting, and that really didn't have much interest for me. Now, later I'd kind of learned that it wasn't really material arts, but it was martial arts, which kind of a big difference. Who knows, had I actually signed up for that, I could have been the next Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris, but it didn't work out that way. Instead, I signed up for a class or workshop on photography. And even then, I didn't really know much about what I was signing up for. In fact, for the longest time, I'd call it photography instead of photography. But I have to tell you, that workshop was life-altering for me. I became obsessed. We spent the first Saturday going around the city, taking different artistic photographs. And then the next Saturday, we worked in a dark room, learning how to develop and print the pictures. And I became obsessed with it. And as Steve mentioned, when I was 16, I got a job at a community newspaper in Fairfield, Ohio, as a photographer. A few years later, when I enrolled at the University of Cincinnati as a broadcast major, I used that experience and that knowledge and that hobby to work my way through college. That was really the only job I had when I was in college. And that experience led me to my first job in broadcasting at WKRC in Cincinnati, not WKRP in Cincinnati. Again, big difference. At least on most days it was a big difference. But it was during that first full-time job that I first started giving to the United Way, and I haven't stopped giving since. Even then, I wasn't making much money. I realized how important the United Way was as an organization. Now, as I reflected back upon all this, I thought, gee, you know, that's kind of my story, and it doesn't really have the same resonance that Todd's did. Todd was born united, as I said. I just lived united by first giving and then by now volunteering and advocating. But then I did a little research, and it turns out that the YMHA in Winnipeg is actually a United Way funded agency. And had I not accidentally signed up for that photography workshop, who knows what direction my path would have taken, and who knows who would have been standing in front of you right now as the 2018 campaign chair. Right now, there are a lot of conversations going on at Bull Street headquarters of the United Way as we prepare for the future, you know, without Greg as our president, CEO. And it's a future that's incredibly bright, thanks in large part to everyone who's sitting out here right now. And of course, thanks to the Herschel V. Jenkins Fund that allows nearly every dollar that's donated to this agency to go out to the agencies that we fund and support. But one question we keep asking ourselves is, how do we measure success? Now, come September, we'll have officially kick off this campaign, and there's going to be some giant number behind me, and we're going to work towards that. And come November, we're going to celebrate achieving that goal, and I can assure you we will celebrate that. But that's not our only measure of success. Financial goal is only a part of what we do. We must also measure our success by the number of lives that we touch and the number of people we help through our giving. Dr. Stephen Covey, an educator and author, teaches us that the key to the 99 is the one, particularly the one that is testing the patience and the good humor of the many. It is the love and the discipline of the one student, the one child, the one that communicates for others. It's how you treat the one that reveals how you regard the other 99, because ultimately, everyone is a one. So consider this. I stand before you today to ask that we be all for one and one for all, as we live united and ultimately give united. Because somewhere, there's a 12-year-old benefiting from a program that the United Way funds. And that program is helping to change a life, one life, because everybody is ultimately a one. Thank you, and thank you for attending this afternoon's meeting.